the day, I'm going to be trying to create a recipe from scratch. No help, all off the top of my head. So I'm about to go to the grocery store to get some inspiration for tonight's meal, and I will see you after that. So these are the ingredients that I picked up from the store for my meal. So I'm going to be using some cherry tomatoes, some spinach, mushrooms, Parmesan cheese, which is my favorite, an onion, some red peppers, bacon, the good kind, which I don't buy very often, but hey, this is a special occasion, some fresh linguine noodles, some basil, and some garlic. And I also found in my cupboard that I'm going to be using some fresh olive oil and a little bit of pesto. So we'll see how this goes. I think you can tell this is going to be some sort of pasta dish, and we will start cooking. Step 1, peel and chop the onion. Now, as we all know that when you cut onions, they make you cry voraciously. Therefore, tip, wear a pair of sunglasses while you cut the onion. Stylish, yet practical. Not a tear in sight. Once you have your onions all chopped up, put them in your roasting pan. Chop up your tomatoes. I like to cut all of my vegetables roughly the same way, as close as can be to perfect, because that way when you serve food to somebody, it not only looks really nice, but things get cooked more evenly when it's all cut the same way. Shout out to my amazing boyfriend for giving me a hand chopping up the tomatoes, because I bought way too many. After all of your tomatoes are sliced in half, add them to the roasting pan with the onions. Step 3, chop up your red peppers. Be very careful while using a knife this big. Once you've chopped up all your peppers, add them into your roasting pan and mix them up with your tomatoes and your onions so that everything gets cooked. Now that we've got all of our vegetables chopped up for our sauce, we're going to add in a few extra things to make it taste delicious. First thing, extra virgin olive oil. Just going to do a little drizzle over the tomatoes. And these things you can measure out if you want to. You don't have to, but sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends on how I feel when I'm cooking. Some salt. As Gordon Ramsay would say, you've got to season your food. Some pepper. Not too much, because a little goes a long way. Some Italian seasoning, which is a mix of things of like oregano, thyme, garlic powder. A few leaves of basil, because basil is one of the best Italian herbs, and it's used in a lot of Italian cooking, which is probably my favorite style in general. Oh, it smells so good. A few more basil leaves. Maybe 3 more. Should be good. Then you can't have a good tomato sauce without having garlic. Anybody who says you can never have too much butter, I say you can never have too much garlic. And then maybe 1 more tablespoon just to bring out the garlic flavor. Good. Next, a splash of balsamic vinegar. Again, a little goes a long way. And after this roast and I mix it all up, I may add a little bit more of some things in, or may take some things out. We'll see how it goes. And then finally, when I was rummaging through my fridge, I found this pesto, which I think will add some nice flavor to the sauce. We shall see. We'll hope for the best. Pesto has things like pine nuts and basil and Parmesan cheese in it. All of the yummy things. And that's it. Now we mix it all up. Okay, next step. This roasting pan is going to go into the oven. I put it in for 415 degrees, but it may need a little bit higher than that. You can put it a little bit lower than that. Whatever floats your boat. And then I'll try to keep it in there for about 20 minutes. Hopefully it won't need that long. It might be. I'll be checking in. Because I had so much leftover basil, I'm going to take the leaves and roll them into a log. And then I'm going to take my knife and cut them into really thin ribbons, either to add to the sauce later if it needs a little bit more flavor, or for people to sprinkle over their dishes. And voila! Nice thin ribbons of basil. Now it is time for my favorite part of this recipe, bacon! Chop up the bacon into small pieces to go into your saute pan. Now you're going to cook your bacon until crispy, and be careful because it's going to splatter. Tip number 2, when your bacon evidently starts to splatter, use a splatter guard, because then it doesn't burn your face. After your bacon is nice and crispy, take it out of your pan and put it into a separate bowl. Then you're going to take your pan and drain some of the bacon grease out. And I mean some, because normally when you're cooking vegetables, you can use butter or olive oil. But when you have bacon grease in the pan that tastes delicious, leave it in there and cook it with your vegetables. In the midst of all your cooking, take your roasting pan out and give your pan a stir to see how your vegetables are. Oh, not much longer, I don't think. Now it's time to add in your mushrooms and your spinach. And when you're cooking spinach, a lot goes a little way, and that means that when you put it in the pan, it actually shrinks up. So use as much as you like. These smell delicious. Next step, add in your spinach and let it saute. And like I said, a lot goes a little way. Again, while your sauce is cooking, fill up your big pot with about a little bit more than halfway with water. Always salt the water before you put the pasta in. Next step, put your pasta in your boiling water. Fresh pasta actually takes a lot less time to cook than the hard pasta does. So you want to cook your pasta for about 4 to 6 minutes or until it's not too hard but not too soft. Al dente, as Gordon Ramsay says. Once your noodles are cooked, drain the water out of them. And be careful. Now that the tomatoes are leaching out liquid and they look like they're about ready to soften up, it's time to take the roasting pan out of the oven. Now, if you want to have your tomatoes have a little bit more color or char on them, you can put them and your onions and your red peppers on a baking tray instead, and then put them in the roasting pan and blend them up. But hey, trial and error. Now here comes the fun part, blending this all together to make a delicious sauce. Now for the first taste test. all the components are done. Now it is time to mix it all together and see if my guinea pigs like it or not. Here we are, the finished product. Now it's time to eat. So these are my guinea pigs for my recipe. I have my dad, my Uncle Roger, my Aunt Claire, my next door neighbor Madonna, and my boyfriend Mark and his brother Timothy. All right guys, dig in.
Very good.
Good?
Yes.
Yes?